moving along to the New York Football Jets. Like that picture there where Mr. Aaron Rodgers just came out looking like a badass with the American flag and everything on him. But that quickly ended, as we all saw last season.
It was a hell of a start to that Monday night.
It was. Those first 5 minutes, man, those Jets fans had to be feeling electric.
Oh, yeah. Running out of the tunnel, he was jacked.
Hey,
and
then
I was 4 plays
on 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11. Like, it had potential to be something. It wasn't anything, but it had potential.
It did.
No, but all right, let's talk about their losses here. You can see a long list here. New York Football Jets, 7-10 last year. Lost guys like Zach Wilson, the MILF hunter himself, who just got married, I think. So congratulations to him.
Really?
Putting his MILF days behind him. I think it was him, wasn't it? It might not have been him. I don't know, but whatever. White quarterback.
I think you're right on that one. But hey, Aaron Rodgers lost his buddy Randall Cobb.
I know. All right, Matt. I thought he was part of the package deal. Is Cobb a free agent?
Yes, he is. Well, still free agent. Corey Davis is too.
Might be back. Maybe. Corey Davis, man, he, coming out of Western Kentucky, he looked like a stud in Tennessee for a second there and just all went downhill from there. CJ, who's your mama? CJ Uzoma went to the Philadelphia Eagles. You remember that TJ Houshmandzadeh?
Houshmandzadeh.
Yeah. But Mekhi Beckham is gone. Dwayne Brown, gone. Connor McGovern, gone. Laken Tomlinson, gone. That entire offensive line, gone. I mean, they were, to be fair, trash. So, not fair. But then a lot of loss on the defense here. Bryce Huff, Carl Lawson, Quentin Jefferson, Bryce Hall, Jordan Whitehead, John Franklin Myers. That's a decent amount on a pretty good defense.
A lot of turnover. A lot of turnover on defense and real, like you said, that offensive line that was just trash to begin with.
Yeah, both offensive lines, but the defensive line was pretty good. So we'll see how that looks out. All right, on the additions, some of the big ones here. Mike Williams coming over from the Chargers. John Simpson, Morgus Moses, who played for the Ravens last year. Tyron Smith, who played for the Cowboys. Javon Kinlaw, Hassan Reddick, Olu Fashunu, Penn State offensive tackle. And one of your favorite guys of the draft, Mr. Malachi Corey. So what are we thinking about this roster? As far as how it looks right now?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think the offensive line got a major upgrade. It needed it. It couldn't have gotten much worse. Like we were talking about before we went on the air here, they had to do something to protect Aaron Rodgers, and they went out and got a couple pretty well-known studs at offensive tackle. Did get him another wide receiver piece in Mike Williams. And then defensively brought in a couple studs up front. It'll be interesting to see if they can, work through some of the other losses as far as in the back end. But in general, I think they did a nice job of filling in holes where they had, or where they had them last year. Going back to your point about my guy, Malachi Corley, he was one of my sleepers going into the draft. And I think he ended up in a really, really good spot with the New York Jets behind Garrett Wilson, behind Mike Williams. He fits nicely into that slot position.
Awesome spot. Yeah. No, I think he couldn't have ended up better. I know right now Wilson's ahead of him on the depth chart. Obviously Williams will be, but we'll talk about Williams in a second, coming off his ACL tear. How many reps is he going to get early on? And then Xavier Gibson, a guy who flashed in the return game, but really didn't do much as a wide receiver. So definitely some opportunity. All right, let's get into those injuries because, one of our biggest takeaways is this team is dangerous if they're healthy. But right now we've got 5 offensive starters with some questions on their injury concerns. Some not as much as others. So let's talk about the fourth, of course, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Speed Bridge himself, Mr. Going to come back in 3 months from an Achilles tear, and people actually think he's fucking serious. Yeah, this was the biggest joke last year. We were telling people right away. I can't believe, man, I'm still pissed at DraftKings for offering will he play and not offering a no option. There was like, will Aaron Rodgers take a snap in this season? And it was just like, yes, at plus 1,000 or something stupid.
Yeah.
Like, They don't even offer the other side, don't bet it. It's a fucking scam. So yeah, that was annoying. But anyway, as we talked about, September 11th last year, tore his Achilles. Typically a 10 to 12 month recovery process with the Achilles tear. Achilles tendon connects your calf muscles to your calcaneus, your heel. Requires surgery to repair. Typically, again, 10 to 12 months. He's got about 12 months, like just about a year to recover. So how are we feeling about Aaron Rodgers, who is getting up there in his years now?
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be back 4 or 5 months ago, so I don't have any concerns at all. No, I really don't have much concerns for Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, he is getting up there in years as far as the
Big
NFL
4-0.
goes. But at the same time, like he doesn't move around nearly as much as he did 10, 15 years ago. He's more of a pocket passer at this point. They did give him some support up front, so I don't expect him to be, having a bunch of bootlegs and making a ton of plays with his feet to begin with. He's got weapons out there for a reason now. So I'm not too concerned, but at the same time, going back to that age thing, other things can pop up. He's been on a kind of different training program over the last year. So, is he supporting other areas of his body the way that he needs to? We'll see. But no, I don't really have much of a concern with A-Rod.
Yeah, no, I would agree. There's definitely, anytime you come back from Achilles tear, there's some concern, there's some re-injury risk, there's some potential injury risk to other parts of the body, like you were mentioning. But even as a 40-year-old quarterback, I'm cautiously optimistic here with Rodgers. Now, like you mentioned, I don't think he's going to have his best year ever, but I think he's set up in an offense where he can succeed, can lean on the running game, and has some pretty premier wide receiver, at least in Garrett Wilson. In the fantasy realm, he's going around quarterback 20, around guys like Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson. Personally, I would take Stafford before Aaron Rodgers. But I would take Rodgers before Deshaun Watson. So, I think he's right. I think he's pretty fairly valued based on where he's going right now. Next guy we're going to talk about here is Elijah Vera Tucker. A really guy who has a lot of potential on that offensive line, just has trouble staying healthy. He also is coming off an Achilles tear. He tore it exactly 1 month after Aaron Rodgers on October 11th. So he's working with 11 months of recovery timeline there. How are we feeling about Elijah Vera Tucker?
Again, I'm not too terribly concerned. I think I'm probably a little bit more concerned with Elijah Vera Tucker than Aaron Rodgers, just because of, the force that he has to put through those legs to pry defensive linemen off of him, and toss them around. But at the same time, he's got the timeline there in his favor, and evidently these speed ropes or whatever that they're calling these things, speed bridges, are supposed to have you back in half the time. So he should be good to go.
Who knows if they offer that sexy product to a nasty offensive lineman? So we'll see.
That's true.
But yeah, no, somebody I want to.
Dogs don't have the privilege as the quarterbacks do.
Yeah, exactly. They're pretty privileged. Someone I want to keep an eye on going into training camp season, but I would almost expect him to be out there week 1 as well. Mike Williams coming off of an ACL tear. We talked about an ACL tear a little bit at the top of the episode. Again, major stabilizing knee ligament. He injured himself September 24th. He's got about 11 and a half months to recover, and you want around 10 to 12 months. So he's getting close to that 12-month mark where we kind of want guys to be. What are your expectations for Mike Williams?
Yeah, I think going into the season, will he start a little bit slow? Probably. But I think in general, he's in better shape than most with ACL tears. Earlier on in the season, the quicker you're going to come back the season afterwards. And he tore it in week 2, week 3 last year?
I believe he played 3 weeks last year. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got some time on his side to, if we're going to ever say that with an ACL tear. But at the same time, kind of like we said, they do have other weapons there. They brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They have Malachi Corley. They have, Scantling went to Buffalo.
No, he's on the Bills. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. But they do have some other wide receivers there. I think it's one of those things that, again, maybe we put him on a snap count. Maybe only have him run certain routes, something like that. but I'm not too terribly concerned with Mike Williams long term.
Yeah, no, they actually came out and said that he's going to be on a similar situation to Breece Hall, where if you look at Breece Hall, they kind of had him on a snap count the first 4 weeks, and then they really let him loose week 5 and on. So, and Breece Hall played the entire season and stuff. So, you can't expect, I don't know if he's going to have Breece Hall had a hell of a season in terms of year 1 post ACL. Like, he had a very unprecedented season. So I wouldn't expect that. But Mike Williams, where he's going at wide receiver 57 around guys like Jacoby Myers and AD Mitchell, someone I would be willing to take a stab on. I think he's going to get stabilized with Rodgers. I think he's just 6'4" wide receiver. He's a big target, a big red zone target, I believe. So, someone I would be willing to take a stab on. There's definitely, high risk, high reward play there. But I kind of like Mike Williams this year, even though he's coming off the ACL tear. And then a couple guys that, maybe with some less concern. We'll start with offensive tackle Morgan Moses, who's coming from the Ravens. Offensive linemen are built different. They continue to prove it. He tore his pec in week 4, and then played 14 games, including the playoff game against the Chiefs, with a torn pec muscle. Absolute stud, absolute beast. So he had surgery at the end of the season, about a 4 to 6 month recovery process. He's got about 8.5 months. Any concerns there?
I don't think so.
I mean, shit, if he could play with it torn, I'm sure he's going to be fine with it being
healed. No doubt.
And then you got Breece Hall. Breece Hall, who is, again, we just talked about him. I mean, to have the season he did last year and now come in year 2 off of it, he picked up a minor lower body injury, undisclosed. Looks like he's going to be fine. He was working off on the side, going through some rehab stuff and still being out there in the mandatory minicamp. They said if it was during the season, he would be practicing. So it seems to be, he's got a month from that point till training camp. So at this point, I have no reason to kind of have any concerns with Breece Hall there. All right, let's go ahead, and we talked about some of our takeaways. Talk about some of the big concerns. I think health is the biggest thing. And for me, something I wanted to talk about was their secondary outside of Sauce Gardner. So we talked about that front seven. That front seven is monsters. You got Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quinnen Williams, Hassan Reddick, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, right? These are some studs. But, outside of Sauce Gardner, you got guys like Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II. Pretty big drop off in, at least on paper, talent from the front seven to the back secondary there. So, again, I think this is going to be good defense, but if there was one area that they might have some holes, I think it might be that secondary there.
I would tend to agree with you there. I think in general, like you said, the front seven is definitely by far probably one of the best front sevens in football, to be honest with you. I think, as long as guys like Jermaine Johnson and really, I think Hassan Reddick coming into New York is going to have a pretty good year. But yeah, as long as those guys are getting after the quarterback, as long as Quinnen Williams is there, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree. A great pass rush can very much hide a bad secondary. All right, talking about the fantasy football world, stepping into that space. Why don't you tell us why you think Malachi Corey is worth a stab there? He's going around wide receiver 74, so he's pretty cheap right now. Where do you see the path for success with Malachi Corey?
Yeah, no, I mean, even back at Western Kentucky, like he's a big-bodied wide receiver, but he's got some jiggle to him. I think he's got some yards after the catch potential. I really like him coming in to this offense in particular, because you got a couple stud wide receivers outside. Stick him in the slot, have the route tree open up for him, and just get him open. And Aaron Rodgers likes those check downs. He likes to get those 5 and 10 yard passes at a time. I just think this offense is going to suit him really, really well.
No, I agree. No, I think he's a sleeper for me as well. He's basically free, someone you can pick up late in a draft who has the potential to be in a starting lineup, not very far off, right? I like how you said he's got some jiggle. Most will say wiggle, but I like the jiggle.
He's got some jiggle.
Corley, this is a jiggle man. So,
yes.
But no, we talked about Mike Williams may be on a snap count to start the year. That's a way in. Xavier Gibson, I wasn't overtly impressed with him as far as outside of the return game. So no, absolutely. I really, you kind of talked me into him while we were going through the draft process. Someone I want to keep an eye on. My question for you, would you rather take Breece Hall going around overall number 9 in fantasy, or Garrett Wilson going around number 10 or 11? So who would you rather have this year? We're going to go full point PPR. Would you rather have Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall?
I would probably lean Breece Hall. But that's a tough one. I think both of them you're paying a premium for either one of them. It doesn't really matter. But I personally usually like to get running backs early, to be honest. So I think it's more just position needs for me.
I mean, he's definitely the last of that tier with him, CMC, and Bijan. As far as the real elite guys with potential to be RB1. I agree. This is no diss to Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is a great player. I think he's got really good potential. I just think Breece Hall might do something. It's really special this year. I want to pull up something. Let's see if I can pull this up here. So there was an article that came out recently when I was looking, and it kind of gets to some of the points that we've talked about in the past. So this is some givemesport.com. So shout out to those folks. No idea who they are. But Jets running back reveals he finally feels fully recovered from an ACL tear. So this was, published not too long ago. It looks like they did an interview with him or something like that. But this is kind of what what we're telling you folks. Like, it can take up to 2 years for people to feel normal, right? Plenty of players you can see it. Like, someone can run straight, someone can get on the field and take snaps and still not be the player that they ultimately can be to their potential and what they were before the injury. So, as good as Breece Hall looked last year, he has the potential to look even better this year and really take over that RB1 spot. He was a threat in both the running and receiving game. So, again, this kind of drives our point home with the ACL tears, where we see, even though he didn't have that kind of common year one post-ACL decline, the fact that we can get an even better Breece Hall, better offensive line, more options. I'm really excited for Breece Hall going into this 2024 season. Definitely. All right. Finish this up here with the JETS Jets. Why don't you tell us about your best bet?
Well, I'm just glad that you know how to spell Jets, to be honest. But
thank you.
I like I said, I kind of like the Jets this year. I think Hassan Reddick is going to have a big year coming over from Philly. I think he's going to, kind of keep pace with what he's been doing down there. I think he's hit this number the last 4 years. But I'm going to take his over sack total at 10.25.
Okay.
And I think that's at plus 100. So plus money. I'll take that.
I like it. Yeah, bringing the defense to play. I love that. Yes, folks, we will talk all sides of the ball here. We might leave off special teams because no one really likes the kickers. But we will definitely be talking offense, defensive line, and we will be giving out defensive props this year. So enjoy that, because that sack market, it's definitely a new market. We got tackles, interceptions, sacks. It's something you could definitely take advantage of, that we got some value, really nice value last year. So I like this Hassan Reddick play. Anything else for the Jets?
Well, the only other one I think we actually share, and that's the Jets to win the division.
Yep.
We never, share each other's picks before we really go on air, just a couple minutes before. But yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to see that you also like the Jets to win.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, like Derek was saying, we try to keep it our processes separate, and then once we put the graphic together at the end, we kind of share. But yeah, we have not overlapped a lot this year yet. Yeah, I think this is funny because I was looking at these 3 teams between Miami, Buffalo, and Jets, and it's really a 3-horse race. And so the fact that we both landed on the Jets, maybe that means something there. But yeah, plus 190 for them to win the AFC East. Their win total is at 9.5. It's pretty juiced to the over, minus 150, under plus 125. So I would almost, instead of betting that or like over 10.5 or 11 wins, I'd rather just take them to win the AFC East, to be that division, because I think this division is going to cannibalize each other a little bit. I don't think the AFC East winner is going to have anything like 12, 13 wins. I think it could be a 10-win team.
Yeah.
So I like the AFC
was
East
last year.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I like that. Couple more that I had. Malachi Corley, we talked about him a bunch. I'm going to take a dart at him to lead the rookie receivers at 40-1 again. So that gives me Jalen Polk 40-1, Malachi Corley 40-1, and then Malik Neighbors is really where for my soul and my wallet, I hope is really what comes through at 6-1 there. I also, I talked about Breece Hall. I obviously can't go on this big rant about how I think he's going to do special things and not put some coin behind him. So Breece Hall, we use DraftKings for our odds and all of our plays here. It's just what we like to use. Breece Hall to have 1,000 rush yards, 1,000 plus rush yards and 500 plus receiving yards at plus 450. He was 6 yards away from this last year. Yeah. He had the receiving. It was the rushing. He was 6 yards away on a much worse team with much worse options. Everybody and their mother knew Breece Hall was going to get the ball on almost every play. They've got more options. They've got a much better quarterback. It should be an improved offensive line. I love this for Breece Hall. I think what makes him so special is that his ability to be dangerous in both the pass and the rush game. And I know even with Rodgers coming in, he played with Aaron Jones for a long time. Aaron Jones was well known for his ability to be a pass catcher out of the backfield. So I really like this play, and plus 450, I think that is just mispriced. The last one I got, this is my most bets for one team with a 4 here. Mike Williams, over 4.5 touchdowns at plus 115. We talked about him. I think we're getting a little bit of a discount with people not being so sure what we're going to see out of Mike Williams coming into the season. I think you want to get it now before it does look like he's trending towards playing week 1. He's, whenever he's been healthy, he's hit this number pretty easily. Again, 6'4", big body wide receiver. I know tight end Tyler Conklin, I don't have the most faith in. I think he could be their big play target in the red zone. So give me Mike Williams over 4.5 touchdowns there.